Okay. You guys, every time I sit down in a chair, excuse me while I open up my MacBook, I both throw caution to the wind and expect it to catch me, but then my anxiety goes, what if it's not there? And my life flashes before my eyes. Which is kind of the way that I do everything. Maybe we should unpack that. This week, I decided to let TikTok recommend me a book, and oh my fucking god, I was not disappointed. This week I read Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. The Italian grandma has not come out in like a very long time, so let's give her this. Oh my god, it was so good, you guys. But first, if you are new here, my name is Logan and I am the Bi Book Boy. I am a chaotic bisexual. I read books. Quick disclaimer, like trigger warning to everybody before we jump into this. This book revolves around a young transgender boy named Yadriel who is trying to not prove himself, but it's very coming of age, like prove himself and his validity to his family and his greater religious structure. It's really good. But thusly, this book involves body dysmorphia, dead naming, homelessness of LGBTQ plus youth, and a bunch of other fucking shit. So if that is something that would trigger you, I would say shy away from reading this book, because even though it is YA, so it's not like super big about it, it's still there, and this book really doesn't shy away from that shit. This book, something that really impressed me about this was that, especially within the bounds of YA, this like really pushed the bounds and really discussed some stuff, and I enjoyed that. So yeah, forewarning, you have been warned. Feel free to, if this discussion triggers you at all, feel free to jump away from the video at any point. I will not be offended. Like and subscribe, leave a comment below. Love ya, see you at the next one. Now let's jump into this fucking book. Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas is a young adult fantasy murder mystery slash thriller slash coming of age is what I would call it. Like the intersection between all three of those that you can really only get in young adult. And it's really good. It centers around Yadriel, who is a young transgender youth who's also gay. Intersectionality. Yadriel has been raised in a family of the Brujas. I think that's how you pronounce. Another disclaimer, this book is like heavily rooted in Latinx culture and the Latinx community and Latinx mythology, specifically mythology that, according to Yale, Google, and Wikipedia, centers around Cuban and Puerto Rican family dynamics and mythology and such. Thusly, if I pronounce things wrong, I apologize. Feel free to correct me in the comments below, but this could be a ride. Anyway, though, Yadriel is raised in a family of Bruja. Bruja is the Spanish name for witch, and in this book, there's the Brujo and the Bruja, which the Brujo are the men of the family who have the ability to summon the spirits of the dead, and also to bring forth the spirits that are like tethered to this world and can't pass on, and sever their ties to this world and help them pass on so that then they can come back and be with their families on the ofrendas during Dia de los Muertos and etc. And then the Bruja, the women of the family, are they have more powers tied to the living, so they're very like, they can still sense the dead and see the dead, but their powers revolve around like healing the living. It's rumored that a long time ago the Bruja used to be able to bring people back to life with their healing powers, but in this book it's discussed that like the magic is dwindling. Yadriel, being trans, is struggling to get his family to accept him as both as a man and as a brujo, since he keeps running into the same roadblock of Latinx and Spanish culture not really even having the language to fully grasp and accept his identity. He decides to circumvent that and go around it and say, if I can be a brujo and perform a work of magic that a brujo would traditionally do, i.e. bring back a spirit from the dead and help them pass on, then my family will accept me, and life will get better, etc., etc. So Yadriel, along with the help of his friend Maritza, who is one of my favorite literary characters I've ever read. Maritza is a queen. I digress. They set about to bring back the spirit of their cousin Miguel, who has gone missing, and the family has sensed that he is dead, but they cannot find his body. So they're going to bring back the spirit of Miguel, find his body, help him to pass on so that he can be with them at the ofrenda. Yadriel performs the ritual, but brings back the wrong spirit, who is named Julian, who is a young boy that went to school with them, but they don't really know. Julian apparently died on the same day as Miguel, so thusly they're like, well, if we can get Julian to pass on and then figure out where Miguel is, then we can right all the wrongs and get shit figured out before Dia de los Muertos. And thus hilarity ensues. Something I really appreciated that's not really a spoiler is that the first scene in the book is Yadriel getting his powers. I'm not sure if this is officially a part of the mythology or not, because I did not Google as much as I should have, because I wanted to go into this book blind. But in this book, the Brujo and the Bruja all worship and gain their powers from Lady Death, who is a deity who she's the ruler of the land of the dead, from my understanding, and she gains, in order for someone to become a bruja or a brujo, they have to perform a ritual and get their the brujos have a dagger that is endowed with the ability to sever the ties between a dead spirit and their living things that are keeping them from passing on. And then the bruja have a rosary that is something they use in all of their rituals and their healing rituals and such. And she is the one, the spirit comes down and is yo, I'm gonna give you this power. I accept you as who you are and part of an ambassador for my voice to the living. And a really important thing is that the first scene is Yadriel getting his powers and his dagger as a brujo, which is really fucking important, because that is literally the book opening up being yo, the most important figurehead in this family's religion and this family's culture, the endower of the powers, and basically their god, accepts Miguel for who he truly is, which is a boy and a warrior, which is really fucking important because it gets the audience, while it may seem abrupt to start there, it gets the audience to start at a point of already accepting Yadriel and Yadriel's identity, which is just super fucking important when discussing the rest of trans rights and just all of the shit that goes about this in this book. And I fucking love it. As I said, Maritza is probably my favorite character. Maritza is Yadriel's best friend and cousin. She is a bruja, but she has renounced her abilities and does not use them because she is a vegan, and in order to perform the healing rituals you have to use chicken's blood. And she's just so sarcastic and funny and sure of herself and does not give a fuck what the rest of the world thinks, and I love her and enjoy her. She also has 2 dogs named Donatello and Michelangelo, and she's like, they're named after the artist, thank you, but everyone else is like, did you name them after Ninja Turtles? Did you name them after Ninja Turtles? And it's fucking funny. Julian is like the epitome of like initially the hot bad boy, but also like funny. He's very like strong and like sometimes abrasive and sometimes even has anger issues, but he's not, I wouldn't define him as hyper masculine. He's very aware of the world. And it's cool because he breaks a lot of the thoughts of like, you would see somebody who was like those specific guards up in the world and be like, they're gonna hate crime me. And he's like, no, actually, I'm gay. But thusly, Julian serves as like a really cool foil to Yadriel, because Yadriel is a very like, not serious, but just like, by the book, we're gonna get this done, we're gonna fix all the shit I just fucked up on accident and get my family to accept me before midnight. And Julian's like, so hey, let's live a little. I'm only gonna do light spoilers because this is a really recent publish, so I don't know how many people have read this book, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who would like to read this book, because it is a 5-star from me, so go read this book. It's really good. Aiden Thomas is an incredible author, and I can't wait to read more of his work. I really enjoy Julian as a character because through his eyes, we get to really experience like a lot of shit that comes with being a member of the Alphabet Mafia nowadays. Especially in like non-white communities. Julian is the product of like a broken family. His mother left when he was very young and his dad died. And he was raised by his older brother. Julian has also been off and on homeless. Along those, like through that lens, we meet a bunch of other characters that are like Julian's friends, who are all like, they're all like on the edge of society. They're all youth, LGBTQ plus youth that are homeless because their family either doesn't exist or didn't accept them. And it's really cool because that's just a thing. That's a huge problem. Homelessness in LGBTQ plus communities is a huge problem, especially among younger LGBTQ plus teens. And it's something that we really need to discuss, because I feel like the world likes to, and especially greater queer literature, likes to pretend like that doesn't happen anymore when it's in fact getting worse. But anyway, through that lens, we get to explore like not only what that life is like, but also how the rest of the world views them as. Firstly, when they're like trying to like meet Julian's friends and like, you know, figure out what they can do to help Julian pass on, there's a lot of discussion around how like, because Julian is off and on homeless and really sort of an outcast, no one really knows he's dead. They all just assume that he's run away, which is really sad, but sadly a very realistic thing. There's a lot of rumors of Julian being in a gang, which he is not, of his family being involved in the drug cartel, which they are not. They're mechanics. There's also this really cute moment where Julian's like, so if I'm a ghost, can I like move shit and make shit happen and just like poltergeist the fuck out of this place? Except he said it in a YA version of that. And they were like, well, you can sure try. And he's like learning how to like screw with stuff. It's so funny, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the relationship between Yadriel and his grandmother, in that she accepts him as a trans man, but she is so old and of like in the older generation that she does not have the language to express the fact that she accepts him. She mostly speaks Spanish. She is the matriarch of this gigantic family. And she's just been so in her way so long that she loves and accepts him, but she does not know how to fully adapt to accept him. And that is a really difficult struggle that we don't often discuss in LGBTQ plus literature. The use of horror and action in this book is actually really dark and graphic compared to what I was expecting. There's a scene where they're fighting like this ghost gardener that's in the cemetery, and that was actually kind of scary. Also, the climax of this scene, or of this book, is very intense, and I really enjoyed it, and I did not see it coming. That's a lie. There were the bits of the mythology that were used in the climax, I definitely saw coming as soon as they were mentioned, but I did not expect the twist at the end when it's revealed who is behind Miguel and Julian's disappearance, etc., because you do eventually find that out, and it was not at all what I expected. Also, the romance between Julian and Yadriel was really cute. I just love paranormal romance, you guys. I love Ghost Whisperer was my shit as a kid. And like the Ghost movie, and like just anything that involves a living person falling in love with like a ghost or a spirit of someone who's passed on, or like a vampire or something, which I should probably unpack in therapy, but it was really well done here, especially the use of Spanish in this book. Oh my god, because like Yadriel speaks a mix of Spanish and English to his entire family, and it's really cool to see that integrated in dialogue, because you don't really often get that kind of representation, especially in YA. But Julian does not speak Spanish for a good majority of the book, and for a while they're just assumed like, oh well, he's not religious, he didn't really have like that much of a family, so maybe they didn't speak Spanish, his first language was English, but then it's eventually revealed that his first language was Spanish. He just solely spoke Spanish with his dad, and after his dad died, he stopped speaking Spanish to anyone except his brother, because he reserves his first language for people who he feels intensely intimate with. Thusly, the first time he speaks Spanish to Yadriel, I like fucking sob. Again, 5 stars, high-key fucking recommend. One of the best YA books I've ever read. Definitely one of the best YA fantasy books I've ever read. I used to say that I really didn't enjoy YA fantasy, but after starting this channel, I have realized that that is not true. I don't enjoy Eurocentric YA fantasy, which means I don't like reading about magic white people. But I fucking love this. This book is one of my top recommendations and one of my top reads of 2021 so far. If you enjoyed this video, thanks for sticking around and helping out. Make sure to like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you can get my videos whenever I decide to post them. And until next week, this has been the Bye Book Boy, and I am saying bye.